So while it may feel like we just started the Midnight expansion of World of Warcraft, the content isn't slowing down at all, because on the 21st of this month, we are getting our first minor patch 12.0.5. And while this patch will come with actually quite a lot of new content, the main thing I wanted to go over in this video is a massive new piece of gearing that will allow you to get not only guaranteed Myth Trek gear from content you normally could get it from, but also a way to upgrade gear past the item levels we can currently get, and you can start the progression of that system right now. And this is going to be the Voidforge system, which has two different pieces to it. The first one, which is essentially adding in bonus rolls back into the game, except these are guaranteed and they can give you higher track gear from some specific content that you normally couldn't be getting it from. And then the second part will allow you to upgrade hero or myth track items, specifically for weapons and trinkets, past the item levels they could normally be. So there's going to be some pretty massive power increases through these new gearing systems. And like I mentioned, you can start this right now. So if you go to the Void Storm zone, and right in the small settlement that the teleporter will take you to, you go over to the Decimus NPC, and he will have a quest for you that is labeled as a tutorial quest. So it will be the purple quest icon. And this quest that you pick up from Decimus will just want you to complete any Bountiful Delves, Mythic Plus, or defeat any raid bosses. And as you start doing those, you'll be able to go back and turn that quest into him, and this will start powering up the Voidforge. And depending on what week you watch this video, you will be able to power it up a different amount of times. So the week I'm recording this video, you'll be able to do this 4 different times if you haven't done it yet. If you're watching it the next week after that, it will be 5. And if you're watching it on the week of 12.0.5, you'll be able to fully charge up the Voidforge with the 6 different charges you need to actually activate these new gearing systems. And the powering up of the Voidforge is warband wide, so you only need to do it on one character, or you can do the quest on multiple characters to do it more quickly if you're going to be playing multiple alts. And you should be able to go do all of the charges in 1 week if you haven't been keeping up with this. So if you're, say, on launch day of 12.0.5 and you haven't done a single one of these quests, you should be able to go get all 6 of the Voidforge charges all in 1 week just by spam running content and completing these quests. So there's nothing you've really missed out on in not doing this yet, but if you don't want to spend a ton of extra time just completing these quests, you may want to do it now while we wait for the next patch. And once 12.0.5 is released and you have all 6 of your charges done, so all 6 of your weekly quests completed, you will then start being able to use the 2 new gearing systems. The first one being Nebulous Voidcores. Now these are essentially the reroll tokens. So once you've powered up the Voidforge, you will then be able to buy these reroll tokens, which you'll be able to get 2 per week, and that's for every one of your characters, and you'll be able to buy them with either Veteran Dawncrest, Gold, or Void Light Marl. More than likely, you'll probably just want to use like Gold or Void Light Marl, which is super easy to get, but you can use those and get 2 of these Void Cores, and these are your bonus roll tokens. But these tokens actually have a bunch of different pieces that make them work completely differently from how bonus roll tokens used to work when those were available in the game in older expansions. So once you've obtained these Void Cores, you can use them on any Season 1 raid boss for Midnight, for completing a Mythic Plus dungeon, for completing a Bountiful Delve, or a prey hunt on Nightmare difficulty. So pretty much any endgame content you can do in the game that's PvE, you will be able to use Void Cores on. And again, you'll be able to get 2 a week, but depending on what you're doing, it may cost a different amount of Void Cores. More specifically, if you're doing a raid, it'll cost 2 Void Cores to get that 1 additional piece of loot. If you're doing any other content, so Mythic Plus, Bountiful Delves, or Praise, those will only cost 1. And another really important aspect of these Void Cores is that once you use them on a piece of content, it will remove the piece of gear you get from it from the drop table until you've gotten all loot. So let's say you go and complete a Bountiful Delve and you use one of these Void Cores on it, and let's say you get one of the Delve trinkets. Well, now that Delve trinket will be removed from the loot table until you've obtained obtained everything through these void cores. So that will work the same way on a raid boss. Let's say there's a raid boss and there's only 4 items you could get from it for the spec you're currently using. Well, you would use these void cores, get one of those 4 items, and it would be removed from the loot table, so you could now only get 3 additional items in the following weeks. And this is quite important because this will allow you to target farm something you're very specifically looking for. Let's say you've been running Algathar Academy and you're looking for the puzzle box trinket, which is like best in slot for most specs in the game. Well, you can use these void cores on this dungeon, and if you don't get it for your first or second void cores, you can wait till the next week, use them again, and every additional void core you use will just be a higher chance to get the item you're actually looking for. And like I mentioned, with raid bosses specifically, you have to use your 2 void cores for that week to get an item from a raid boss. All the other content is 1, but raids do also work a little bit differently because it'll only remove that item from that difficulty. So if you go and say defeat the first boss of one of the raids on normal difficulty and use one of these void cores on it, whatever item you obtain will be removed from the loot pool on normal difficulty. So if you then go defeat the boss on, say, heroic difficulty and you want to use a void core, the item you got from normal will not be removed from the loot pool on the different difficulty. But that's not all of the differences with how these void cores work, because Mythic Plus also has a unique aspect with these void cores. If you're specifically running Mythic Plus dungeons and you use a void core, it will give you an item on the item track of what you would obtain from the Great Vault at the end of the week, depending on the key you're in. So let's say you're doing a Mythic plus 10 dungeon and you use a void core at the end, it will give you a myth track piece of gear. Now, normally doing a plus 10, you could only get hero track gear from the chest at the end of the run, and then you could get myth track from the Great Vault once per week. But with these void cores, you will now be able to get 2 myth pieces from Mythic Plus dungeons if you're running a plus 10 or above. So that is probably going to be one of the main ways that these things are used. Obviously, if you're a raider doing like maybe heroic or mythic raids, you may want to use them in that. But for I think a lot of people, you're just going to be using them in Mythic Plus because you'll be able to get 2 pieces instead of the 1 piece from a raid boss per week, and just do a plus 10 run and you'll be able to get 2 guaranteed pieces of loot. And again, whatever piece of gear you get from that use of the void core will be removed from the loot table. Now, it is also a bit unique because of how Mythic Plus dungeons work, in that since you're not looting the bosses specifically, the chest at the end of a Mythic Plus dungeon can give you any piece of loot for your class or spec from that one chest at the end. So when you use a void core in a Mythic Plus dungeon, it will be the entirety of the loot table for that dungeon of items you could use. So that will in general be a lot more items, and it's even a lot more items if you use these on Bountiful Delves or Nightmare Praise. So that's also something to factor in. If you're using it on a raid boss, that raid boss could maybe only have like 3 or 4 pieces for you. If you're doing it on a Mythic Plus dungeon, there could be probably like 8 plus items that you could actually use. So if you're trying to whittle down to get a specific item between raids or Mythic Plus dungeons, it'll probably be quite similar in that aspect. And for me personally, I'm going to be using these on Mythic Plus dungeons. I think these void cores are going to be ridiculously OP for Mythic Plus dungeons. This will be the first time we will have been able to obtain the highest track of gear from a Mythic Plus dungeon run itself. And we'll be able to get 2 pieces per week. So realistically, you're probably going to want to be target farming weapons, trinkets, or some of the more unique items, like how in the Nexus dungeon, there is the 2 set of rings that can be quite good. That could be something you may want to focus on, but in general, it'll be trinkets and weapons, because also getting those best in slot trinkets and weapons high on the upgrade tracks is also going to play into the second system of the Voidforge, which are Ascendant Voidcores. So once you've powered up your Voidforge by doing 6 weekly quests, you will then have another quest from Decimus to help him craft an Ascendant Nailhammer, which will be another warband-wide quest. So once you've completed that and unlocked the system, it'll be unlocked for all characters on the account, and then you will be able to start earning Ascendant Voidcores. Now you can earn these by defeating raid bosses, completing Mythic Plus dungeons, completing Bountiful Delves, or completing Nightmare Prey hunts. And it doesn't sound like there's going to be a cap on these, but I'm not sure if you'll always get these from completing the content or if it'll just be a chance. And assuming that these are infinite, you'll technically be able to get any amount of these per week that you could want. And you use these Ascendant Voidcores on weapons or trinkets to upgrade them past their normal item levels, but these items have to be on the hero track, on the myth track, or a radiant crafted piece of gear. And these will have to be at the maximum quality they can be on. So hero track will have to be 6 out of 6, myth track will have to be 6 out of 6, and if you have a crafted item, it'll have to be the highest quality, which will be at an item level of 285. And just to give some additional information, because the item levels will be a little bit different, like mentioned, a highest quality crafted item will be 285 item level. A myth track piece of gear will start at 272 item level, and you'll have to upgrade it to 6 out of 6, which will upgrade it to a 289 item level. And a hero track piece of gear will start at 259, and you'll have to max upgrade it up to 276. And we do have some examples of using these Ascendant Voidcores on fully upgraded myth track gear. So keep in mind, normally myth track gear goes up to 289 at max item level, and if you use one of these Ascendant Voidcores on them, it'll go up to 298. So if you have weapons and trinkets at the max it can possibly be, you should be able to get them up to 298, which is absolutely crazy, and trinkets and weapons are already the strongest items in the game, so you'll be making your most powerful items even stronger. And the power increase from that big of an item level jump is going to be absolutely ridiculous. So while you're busy building up your Voidforge and doing those weekly quests to fully empower it once this patch is out, I would also recommend trying to get both of your trinkets and whatever weapons you're using, whether it be a two-hander or a one-hander, an offhand or shield. I would recommend you get all of those to at least hero track and try to farm up hero crests and get those upgraded as quickly as possible. If you're doing content that allows you to get myth track in those slots, I would definitely recommend doing that as well, because having your trinkets and weapons at least at hero track is going to be massively important once the patch is released, because even if you have hero track gear, being able to get one of these Ascendant Voidcores and then upgrade it is still going to be a massive power increase. And for weapons specifically, you can also just get a crafted weapon, which would mean using a bunch of myth crests, using a bunch of the highest quality reagents you can, and also hoping whoever ends up crafting it actually gets the highest quality of craft, so you'll be able to upgrade that. I know a lot of people, especially earlier on in the seasons, usually do this with their weapons because your weapon is your strongest piece of gear in general. So getting a weapon with mythic item level very early on in the season is incredibly strong in general, and this will also make that even better. And then later down the road, once you get an actual myth drop for a weapon, you can then switch it out and craft some other items. But any way you look at it, this Voidforge with these two new gearing systems is just going to allow you to massively increase your power through upgrading your gear and just getting more gear drops, and specifically if you're doing Mythic Plus, getting even higher tier of drops than you can normally be getting. So this is definitely one of those systems to be looking out for and to make the best use of as you possibly can when 12.0.5 is released. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.